Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping into some really fascinating material today.
Yeah, thanks to you, our listener, for sharing these excerpts from Metzen's Aware Leadership Mastering Leadership Dialogue Communication.
It looks fantastic, really practical, but also quite profound in how it links leadership and language.
Absolutely. And that's our mission today, isn't it? To really unpack these insights.
Right, we want to pull out the most important nuggets specifically for you, the listener.
Think of it as maybe a shortcut, a way to grasp the core ideas about communication for aware leaders.
Exactly, because we always hear communication is critical for leaders, but this source goes, well, deeper.
Much deeper. It connects it directly to our own self-awareness, which is, not always where people start.
No, it's not. And we'll get into that, how our internal world shapes every single conversation.
And some really mystical stuff, too, like those killer phrases to avoid. We probably all use them sometimes.
Oh, definitely. And this idea of emotions as a compass, I'm really interested to explore that.
Yeah, not just feelings, but actual tools for navigation. It's about useful self-knowledge.
Okay, let's dive in then. The foundation seems to be this link between self-understanding and communication.
Precisely. Aware leadership, as Metzen puts it, isn't some rigid formula. It's more of an invitation.
An invitation to do what exactly?
To cultivate leadership that's skillful, yes, but also effective and sustainable in the long run.
Ah, okay. By blending experience, mindfulness, and just practical wisdom.
Exactly. And it all starts internally. The first big concept is how communication acts like a mirror.
A mirror. So what we say reflects our personality.
That, yes, but also our core beliefs, the source calls them life concepts, our whole inner landscape, really.
Wow. So it's not just about exchanging information.
Not at all. The way we communicate is shaped by so much bubbling under the surface.
It's like our emotional state at that moment.
Definitely. And our subconscious stuff, beliefs, past hurts, even perceived power dynamics.
And how we actually feel about the person we're talking to, whether we admit it or not.
Right. So yeah, before a single word comes out, there's a whole internal context coloring the message.
That makes sense. And the source uses an analogy for this, something about a lake.
Yes, the self as a lake. It's a lovely image. The lake is you, this unified whole.
Hurrah.
But within that lake are all your different roles and identities. Leader, sure, but also friend, parent, maybe expert, volunteer, all parts of the same water.
And it suggests actually drawing this, visualizing your lake.
Yeah, we're just thinking about it. Where are the different roles? Do they overlap? Are there gaps?
Is the core, just you present in all of them.
Right, and how do the positive and negative aspects interact? It's a way to see your own complexity.
And the point is, by understanding this internal map, you can be more intentional, like a director.
Exactly, the director of your own lake. Consciously choosing how you show up, how you navigate these different parts of yourself in communication.
Which is crucial because, and this is a big one in the source, our perception isn't objective reality.
Not even close. It's constantly filtered through our life concept, that unique lens we all wear. It can really distort things.
This is where that finger experiment comes in, right?
Self-conducted tactile experiment?
Yeah.
Quite clever. Cross your middle finger over your index finger.
Okay, got it.
Now rub the underside of where they cross with your other hand. What does it feel like?
It feels like 2 points, like I'm touching two separate finger bits, even though I know it's just one spot.
Exactly. Your brain gets the signals, but the unusual nerve arrangement confuses its usual mapping. It creates the perception of 2 points.
Wow. That's a physical demonstration of how perception can be, well, tricked.
Right. And if our basic physical senses can be influenced like that, imagine what our complex beliefs, biases, and experiences do to how we perceive, say, a difficult conversation.
It makes total sense why two people can experience the same meeting and come away with completely different stories.
Absolutely. The source breaks perception down. Signals come in words, tone, body language. Then we interpret them through our life concept, our evaluations, our judgments.
That triggers emotions, behaviors.
Yes, and then that whole package reinforces our life concept, our lens. It's a subjective loop.
Understanding that subjectivity feels like, well, like a superpower for a leader.
It really is. And that leads nicely into the next big tool, understanding emotions as a compass.
A compass? How does that work? They just feel messy sometimes.
They can feel messy, sure.
Yeah.
But the source argues they provide direction by highlighting what matters to us. It focuses on 4 primary ones.
Okay, which are?
Fear, anger, mourning, and joy. Each has a function.
Right. So fear alerts us to threats.
Yep. Danger, risk. Anger signals that a boundary might have been crossed or there's an injustice. It motivates action.
Makes sense. Mourning for processing loss.
Exactly. Accepting what's gone.
Yeah.
And joy points us towards what nourishes us, encourages us to keep going down fulfilling paths.
So the idea is not to ignore them or be ruled by them, but to read them.
Read them, explore them. The source gives a 4-step process.
Yeah.
Step 1, just identify the primary emotion. Name it without judgment. Fear, anger, whatever it is.
Okay. Step 2.
Identify the trigger. And this is key focus only on what created the feeling in you, not on blaming the other person or the situation. What's your internal reaction?
That's harder. Separating the event from my processing of it.
It is. It takes practice. Step 3, formulate a new response. Ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me? What does it want me to pay attention to? Explore different potential actions or thoughts.
And step 4 is evaluating that potential response.
Right. Does it align with what I actually want? Does it address the emotion's message? Does it help solve the underlying issue? If not, loop back, explore other responses.
So you're turning reactivity into a conscious inquiry.
Exactly. Emotions become data, guiding choices, not just driving reactions.
That framework alone seems incredibly useful for leaders dealing with, well, anything complex involving people.
It really does. Because if we don't understand our own emotional landscape, it just spills out unconsciously into our communication.
Okay, so we've got this foundation. Self-awareness, perception, emotions. Now, what about the actual building blocks of communication practice?
The source lays out some core principles. Some might sound familiar, but the aware leadership lens adds depth. Active listening is huge.
Right. More than just not talking.
Oh, much more. It's dedicating your full attention. Trying to grasp the content, yes, but also the emotion, the meaning behind the words.
And doing that shows you value the other person.
Absolutely. It signals their contribution matters, which is fundamental for trust. And another key building block, psychological safety.
Ah, yes, that's become a really important concept lately.
And for good reason. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe enough to share ideas, voice concerns, even admit mistakes without fear of being shut down or punished.
Because if they don't feel safe, they just stay silent.
Or they disengage. Feedback gets ignored. Innovation dies. The source even suggests a practical thing, like a quick psychological safety check-in during meetings.
Just asking people how comfortable they feel speaking up.
Yeah, basically. Simple, but it sends a message. Then there's transparency and authenticity.
Being open, honest, genuine.
Pretty much. Sharing information, even the tough stuff, builds trust. And authenticity means your words actually align with your values and who you are. People can sense fakeness.
Credibility, basically.
Right. And underpinning all of this is respect. It sounds basic, but the source breaks it down.
How so?
Acknowledging contributions, valuing different viewpoints, using polite language, keeping confidences, and again, active listening is a form of respect.
It all weaves together. And empathy, how does that fit?
It connects back to that emotional compass. Empathy is the ability to genuinely try and step into someone else's experience, to feel with them.
So listening with an open heart, validating their feelings without judging them.
Exactly. Reflecting back your understanding. It requires that active listening focus, giving undivided attention, acknowledging what they're feeling.
Okay, so we have this foundation, these principles. But life isn't perfect. Communication breaks down. The source acknowledges challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's very realistic. Disturbances happen. Sometimes it's just personality clashes, different styles grating on each other.
Sure, that happens.
Other times, it's about inappropriate goals for the conversation. Maybe someone secretly wants to win or punish rather than understand or solve.
The hidden agendas.
Yeah. And a big one, the source flags. That powerful urge to be right.
Oh, that one. That can derail things fast. When proving your point becomes more important than connection or finding a solution.
Totally. And the source is clear. Communication, even good communication, doesn't always lead to agreement. Yeah. Especially in conflict situations.
So aware leaders need to recognize those limits.
Yes. And know when maybe dialogue isn't enough and other approaches are needed. This leads to a really useful distinction the source makes.
Between a problem and a conflict.
Exactly. A problem is defined as an individual's unmet need. The responsibility to address it lies primarily with that person.
Like, if I'm feeling overwhelmed with my workload, that's my problem to identify and seek help for.
That's the idea. Whereas a conflict involves a clash between people differing life concepts, incompatible goals, It's relational.
Okay, that distinction seems important.
It is. And problems or conflicts can exist on different levels, too. Technical, just facts. Emotional, driven by feelings. Or deep down at the level of life concept, core values clashing. Knowing the level helps.
Right. So how do we navigate these conflicts constructively, especially when things get heated?
This is where the source gets very specific about communication rules, particularly what not to say, the forbidden killer phrases.
Ah, yes, the things that just shut conversations down.
Instantly. And escalate everything, like the classic, you accusation, you made me angry, or you always mess this up.
Instead of focusing on the issue, it attacks the person.
Right. Or those sweeping generalizations. You never listen, you always interrupt.
Exaggerations, too. I've told you 1,000 times.
Yes. Labeling, you're just being difficult.
Yeah.
It's all your
You're
fault.
being-
Negative interpretations, you probably did that just to annoy me.
Justifying your actions in a way that dismisses their feelings, hurtful insinuations, threats, even subtle ones like giving someone the silent treatment.
Irony, sarcasm, quoting others vaguely. Well, some people think. It's a long list, but recognizing them is powerful.
Because they create defensiveness, not dialogue.
Exactly. And the source contrasts these directly with constructive alternatives.
Which starts with I statements. Right?
Yes. Instead of, you made me feel X, it's, I felt X when Y happened. Owning your feeling and linking it to a specific event or behavior.
Being specific seems key, not your attitude was bad.
No. More like, yesterday, during the budget meeting, when you raised your voice, I felt undermined. Specific situation, specific behavior, you're feeling.
Much clearer, less attacking.
Much. Other rules include speaking only for yourself, no, we all think, avoiding threats completely, and consciously deciding to deal with old baggage separately. Don't bring up fights from 5 years ago in today's discussion.
Okay, that's about mastering the art of disagreement, really?
It is. And these skills are vital for those really tough conversations.
Yeah.
Performance issues, team conflicts, approaching them with compassion and clarity.
Active listening, skillful language, and feedback is a big part of this too, isn't it?
Huge. Giving feedback that's specific, objective, focused on behavior or performance, not personality, and timely.
And just as important, how you receive feedback.
Absolutely. With openness, humility, trying to understand the giver's perspective, even if it stings a bit. Acknowledging the input.
So the source covers quite a range of skills beyond just conflict. What else stood out?
Well, nonverbal communication gets attention. How much our body language, tone, facial expressions say, and the importance of making sure they align with our words.
Because misalignment sends confusing signals.
Totally. And storytelling comes up again, not just for vision, but as a powerful tool generally. To connect, influence, make complex ideas stick, embed value.
Crafting narratives, using vivid language.
Right. And it even touches on rhetoric and persuasion, but framed ethically, using credibility, ethos, emotional connection, pathos, and logic, logos, responsibly.
It sounds incredibly comprehensive, covering internal states, interpersonal skills, specific techniques.
It really is. It even dips into communication theories, like constructivism, how we build meaning together, and social exchange theory, the cost-benefit analysis in relationships, and how leaders can consciously apply these ideas.
And then applies it outwards to teams, clients, the organization.
Exactly. Things like running effective team meetings, fostering inclusion by ensuring diverse voices are heard and respected.
Making sure people feel comfortable interacting across hierarchy or cultural differences.
Yes, and specific advice on client communication.
Hmm.
Really listening to their needs, being proactive, even thinking about communicating consequences.
What does that mean, consequences of decisions?
Yeah, helping the team anticipate the ripple effects, the second and third order impacts of choices to foster better decision-making and accountability.
And crisis communication gets a mention too. That's critical.
Briefly, yes. Planning ahead, responding swiftly and empathetically during a crisis, managing reputation, clarity, honesty, empathy are key there.
Wow. Okay, so it covers a massive amount of ground. How do we wrap our heads around implementing all this?
Well, the source brings it back to something manageable, small steps of conscious choices.
Right. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick one or two things.
Exactly. Make small, deliberate changes based on this awareness. Maybe focus on using I statements this week, or really practice active listening in your next one-on-one.
And it offers that framework for difficult situations. Love it, change it, or leave it be.
Yes, a practical decision filter. Can you genuinely embrace this situation?
Love it.
Hold on.
Or do you have the ability and energy to influence it positively? Change it.
And if the answer to both is no, then can you truly accept it as it is without resentment, or is it time to disengage or leave? Leave it, let it be.
It forces clarity on where to put your energy.
It does. And ultimately, the message is that this is all a lifelong evolution. Aware leadership, mastering communication, it's not a course you finish. It's ongoing growth.
A journey, not a destination, which involves practice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The source suggests exercises, planning communication for tricky scenarios, journaling about interactions, even role-playing difficult conversations to build the muscle memory.
Taking it from head knowledge to actual skill.
That's the goal.
So to recap this depth dive, we started right inside, with the self. That lake of roles, how perception shapes our reality, the emotions acting as a compass.
Then we build outwards to core principles. Active listening, psychological safety, respect, empathy, essential foundations.
We face the tough stuff, communication blockages, the difference between problems and conflicts, and those all too common killer phrases.
Contrasting them with constructive approaches, I statements, specific feedback, clear rules for disagreement.
And touched on a whole range of other skills, nonverbals, storytelling, ethical persuasion, even looking at team dynamics in crisis comms.
Finally, landing on the idea that progress comes through small, conscious steps and a commitment to continuous learning, guided by frameworks like love it, change it, leave it.
It really underscores how central communication is, not just a leadership skill, but maybe the foundational one for building trust, collaboration, and leading effectively over the long haul.
And for you, the listener, this deep dive, this source material, it really is that invitation we mentioned at the start.
An invitation to embark on your own journey of conscious choice, of learning, and figuring out how to apply these ideas in your world.
Because, as the source implies right from the beginning, understanding communication is deeply tied to understanding yourself.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, directly inspired by that core idea.
If communication truly is a mirror reflecting our inner world, what might your mirror be showing you in your most challenging interactions?
And how could really looking at that reflection, understanding what it reveals about you, be the key to transforming those conversations?
Something to ponder. We encourage you to reflect on these insights and see which areas really spark something for you, where you might want to focus your practice next.